Hey, this is Sydney, and I am here to talk us through the time of July 23rd through the 29th, 2025. This is my trusty baby, Lamont. He's wearing a little bark collar, the kind that beeps, not the kind that zaps, because sometimes he likes to be a little bit hyphy. So hopefully he'll just hang out and hear me speak while we go through this. The format of this video is very simple. I go through some of the bigger notes of like the entire week looking forward, and then we'll just go day through day of the energies. Things to remember is that not every transit is meant for you, right? Depending on how old you are, where you have planets placed, certain things could be acting up more than others. And you also might be watching some of these energies play out in other people's lives and you're like, why isn't that happening for me, right? And it's because everybody's birth chart is a unique blueprint and thumbprint of our various realities, which for better or worse, makes it so we have nuance and we are experiencing the bloomin' onion of life. All right, last week was insane. Absolutely bonkers energy in the sky, right? As Mars was going into the South Node and is still very close to the South Node this week, so I don't think we are out of the woods yet. We have seen there's just a flurry of issues around violence, right? Not that there isn't always violence everywhere, but there was the plane that was almost hit by the B-52 bomber that had to do a tactic to be free of that. Didn't know about the bomber. It was really freaky. There was a shooting or a car incident that had to do with LA. That was, I think, over this last weekend. I want to say it was on Friday. I should really write notes about these things as they come up. I'm like, oh, here we are. Here's this, here's that. Yeah, so there's just been a whole bunch of things that have kind of come through. And also with these planets in play having to do with the Mercury retrograde, I'm sure, as I am certain because I experienced it, a whole bunch of really wild stuff around technology, communication, transportation, that sort of thing. I had my identity stolen with Mars and that South Node sitting on my first house cusp. It was really, I was wondering how that was going to kind of play out. Not fun, Bob. Anyways, so let's get into general notes for this week. Mercury is retrograde in Leo. He will be retrograde, or they will be. Mercury is more kind of like non-binary, androgynous, though all the planets are. They have all of the different energies inside of them. I don't mean to anthropomorphize them too much, but it does happen. It like kind of as they can play characters for us, right? So Mercury is retrograde in Leo until August 11th. So to recap, measure twice, cut once. I think this is a time to engage in creative forms of communication, thinking about new and different ways of being creative, right? This is a time to maybe reorganize our thoughts around play. All of those kind of Leo words, right? This can also be, and I personally think that this Mercury retrograde period has been extra dramatic, and Leo loves the drama. Thank you. So I think this particular retrograde has been pretty special, I think, in that way. That Venus-Mars square that is both being ruled by that Mercury retrograde, I think is going to continue to do a little bit of damage, cause some issues, some ways for us to need to be very flexible, especially in the realm of relationship. Venus and Mars, when they are configured together, talks about relationship, right? I know that is very heteronormative, but certainly, you know, I think that Venus can be a man and Mars can be a woman or a non-binary person, a transgendered person, like whatever. But this is just kind of like the two parties in a relationship are at odds with each other, and it has to do with maybe the ways that they're thinking or speaking. So if you're finding that there's like some tension that is arising in relationships or just the relationships around you, here we go. That CEO thing was very much about this, you know, Mercury in Leo being the ruler of, or retrograde Mercury in Leo being the ruler of Venus and Mars configured to the South Node, you know, releasing issues. The moon is out of bounds until the new moon on July 24th. Mars remains within 3 degrees of that South Node until Sunday, July 27th. So like I said, I don't think we're out of the woods when it comes to this kind of like revisiting of old themes around anger or violence, or just experiencing violence that causes like some sort of abrupt stop or ending, with that South Node being kind of a drain. Especially issues with transportation, communication, that sort of thing. I mean, also we are seeing a whole bunch of stuff happen with the Cheeto, right, with the felon, having to do with old stories coming back up that need to be dealt with, that also have to do with children. I think that that has to do with Mercury and Leo, personally. That square between Venus and Mars is going to remain within 3 degrees through Tuesday, July 29th. So this energy that the Mercury retrograde is having with this kind of strife or communication issues in terms of, or in themes of relationship, they hold all week. So being really careful that people hear you, right? This is a beautiful time to just say, hey, did you understand what I meant when I said that right now? And have them kind of repeat it back to you, just to make sure that you are on the same page. In my personal life, like there's been some times where me and my fiance are like speaking to each other, and we're both realizing that like the other person isn't quite like clocking what the other person means. And so then there needs to be a little bit of cleanup, redoing, re-speaking, right? Re-communicating what you mean. Making sure that the other person like can fully absorb it. Still within a degree, we have Saturn and Neptune very close to conjunction. In that Saturn-Neptune almost conjunction, almost perfect conjunction, sextile Pluto. So we have this like kind of bowl situation that's happening between Uranus, Saturn and Neptune and Pluto. These are like big outer planets, social planets, have to do with technology, have to do with government, have to do with spirituality and religion, have to do with like the deeper like societal structures. And that they're all kind of within this 3 degree range speaking to each other, I think speaks to kind of a reorganization that is in play and starting to come together. We're not there yet. These things aren't going to perfect for, you know, a year down the line where we really understand what's going on, but new opportunities are being presented to us, I think is probably the better way to say that. We have a new moon this week. It's a very interesting, juicy new moon, so we'll talk about that as well. And I think those are my notes for the general week. Wednesday, July 23rd, we have the moon out of bounds. He is in Cancer, finishing up his time for that new moon to come into play the next day. Because we have this kind of energy of the sun approaching its tight opposition to Pluto, I think that there is some anxiety that is kind of heavy upon us in the sky. It's just kind of building, right? So if you're feeling kind of pregnant with something, you don't know, maybe it's an idea, right? This is the day for that to kind of be, you know, experienced. Also, you know, Sun just went into Leo. Sun loves being in Leo. It's creative, playful, loyal, happy, dramatic, yeah, open-hearted, warm-hearted kind of, hey, me, I'm important kind of sign. But with the moon now really closing down any remaining traces of light, I mean, there's no more light in the sky from the moon, right? Because it's going into the sun, I think that our energy is starting to kind of dwindle. We're feeling tired, that kind of thing coming through too. So maybe a little bit anxious and a little bit of tired. Yeah, but the moon being in Cancer today can also just speak to, you know, our needing to nurture ourselves and to find healthy emotional spaces. 1:23 a.m. we have Venus in Gemini square Mars in Virgo. This is going to be at 21 degrees. And they're both ruled by that Mercury in Leo. I think that this is a particularly potent day for arguments that have to do around relationships, or around ideas around what you want to do, or the things that you want to let go of versus the things that you value. Because this is a mutable square, I really think that we need to keep in mind that we need to be flexible, especially when we're pushed into new decisions, right? That square is going to kind of push us to make some sort of choice, perhaps. And really, in the end of the day, like, this has to do with the continued releasing of that south node. I don't think that we should be afraid to let go of things in order for us to maybe revisit some ideas that would be, you know, more creative or playful or good for us. You know, this has to do with the past, with the south node kind of being in play, with Mars being so close to the south node. And so with Mercury retrograde as well, I do think that there is, and so many other planets retrograde, right, too. Saturn, Neptune, and also Pluto. This isn't necessarily a moment about going forward. I think this is about going back, maybe dumping some old stuff, revisiting, re-energizing, rethinking before we can kind of go forward in a new way. 6:22 a.m. Mars in Virgo by quintile Chiron in Aries. I think this is just a, you know, maybe an opportunity to do or engage in something that is going to help us on whatever healing journey we're all on. We're all on one. Or to engage in something that is going to help us either engage in some sort of wisdom around the healing that we all definitely need. And at 5:41 p.m. we get the moon in Cancer sextile Mars in Virgo, and that's going to be around 21:25. So then the void, of course, begins. There's not a lot of aspects today, but I do think because we are in this balsamic closing down of a cycle, going into the new moon with that opposition from Pluto, I really do think that we're kind of feeling a little bit pregnant with like electric energy, just kind of like at play, like what's new, what if, trying to figure it out. Things are almost going to kind of bud into this this awareness, maybe around some sort of deeper structural integration that we need to do individually and also collectively. Thursday, July 24th is Jupiter's day, and we still have Jupiter very happy in Cancer, being ruled by this moon that is being renewed in its new moon conjunction with the sun. A new moon is when the moon comes and meets the sun, obscuring all of its light. And in some ways, this is a combust moon, right? It's being burned away of all of the things it doesn't need so it can go off on its new journey. The sun is in Leo. This is where the sun has a special affinity. It's called domicile. So it's really comfortable here, shining all of its light, soaking in all of the attention, right? You know, pointing its warm-hearted love on those that it loves and shines back all of that in, you know, that attention and things on it. It's a regal sign. It's a sign of the king. King is the lion is the king of the jungle. Sorry for the tongue twister there. So we have a new moon in Leo today. Prior to that new moon though, We do have a couple of aspects. We have the moon in Cancer square Chiron, which can be some emotional sensitivity, feeling a bit like the wound has been touched and you really want to do something about fixing it. And then we do have the sun trine that retrograde Saturn, which I think kind of brings and there's a reception there, you know, because Saturn is in the sun's exaltation. And so I think that there's like some sort of maybe like foundational, feeling very secure. Saturn can be a secure word, and like ways of being for the sun to shine. It's just kind of a rooted energy, passionate trine as well. 828, the moon is going to enter Leo, and that's when the void of course will end. We'll get a trine to Neptune, beautiful, passionate, intuitive ideas, creative, new ideas, or creative ideas revisited because of that retrograde nature. And then at 12:11 p.m., we get that new moon in Leo. It's going to be at 2 degrees and 8 minutes. So if you have any planets that are in those super early degrees, especially if you have fixed placements, so that's Leo, that's Scorpio, that's Aquarius, and that's Taurus, early, you are getting impacted probably in a more prominent way, I would say, than if it were to be in another modality at that early degrees. Similarly, if you have any Earth, if you have planets at Libra, Sag, Aries, and Gemini, this is a kind of a friendly aspect, right? This is maybe an opportunity. We have the new moon is about planting a seed, right? It's about an intention. If we think about the full moon as like the awareness, the new moon is this like intention around creativity even. And maybe because we also have Mercury co-present with it into retrograde, maybe this is a new opportunity to revisit an old idea that around like play or art, or even just like what we're trying to create in general, is kind of plucked from the past and brought into the future. I think this is a very pregnant, very, very interesting new moon, and that we also have it opposing that Pluto, and it's in a tight opposition. And there's still not necessarily, I think that there's a little bit of anxiety here because it is in a applying opposition, so it's gibbous. It's not like full awareness. So maybe whatever we're trying to plant, there's still something that is just so psychologically like deep under there, and like we're just trying to kind of mine it out. This opposition actually acts as a kind of full moon situation for Pluto and the sun. So there's some sort of awareness about some sort of power play struggle here that also can be a part of this as well. I do think that this potentially has to do with governments and, you know, the people setting some sort of new intention of how they want to be maybe respected or taken care of by their government. There could be something there. It's kind of interesting because this new moon in Leo also holds a full moon kind of energy around its aspect to Pluto. Let's see. We also have the new moon is going to be trine retrograde Saturn, retrograde Neptune. You know, this is about structures. This is about dreams. This is about visions. This is about the way we want to go forward, maybe in an old way, or using old ideas and kind of repurposing them in a new way. It could be revisiting some sort of, something from old and making it new again. It's particularly passionate. I think that there is kind of a passion here as well. What else we got? We got sextile Uranus within 2 degrees. This is an opportunity for like new ideas to really kind of flow in here. Uranus just went into Gemini not that long ago. It's going to be a revolutionary item in the sky that is going to be, I think, rapidly changing how we think, how we speak, how we communicate, how we connect to our smaller communities, how technology plays out, all sorts of things. So there could be something that a new way is kind of birthed here, and because of that aspect from Uranus, all of these planets, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, are all kind of being activated by this new moon. And when I spoke earlier in the kind of general overview, these are like big outer social planets. And so there's like some sort of new seed that is invigorating these planets to kind of come forward. I don't think we're going to see a lot, maybe an awareness, or that full moon moment isn't going to happen until next year. In February 1st, 2026 is when we are going to get the full moon in Leo. And interestingly enough, that full moon is going to be within 1 degree of Mercury, the Mercury placement in this new moon. So I do think it has to do with ideas and communication as well. Plant the seeds, right? Try to go deep and plant the seeds of awareness and creativity, and maybe how you want to be at play, how you want to make your mark, how you utilize story and drama in your own life. And you're going to want to think about where this new moon is occurring. You're going to want to look at where Leo is in your chart, because that's where it's going to be happening. That's the action point. But then you're also going to want to look at where your sun is, right? Because there's going to be some sort of kind of impact that's going to be kind of drawn through there. And then you're also going to look at the moon, because it does in fact kind of impact that as well. So whenever we have any lunations, new moon, full moon, eclipses, it's always going to impact where Cancer and Leo are in your chart. That's where it ends up kind of resolving itself. The impact it has is in that place. What else do we got? Venus is still within 3 degrees of squaring the nodes. Now Venus is continuing to make her approach, or their approach, to the south node, which in turn, in a while from now, right, will be some sort of letting go there as well. So I think that there was an opportunity here around our values, around the ways that we harmonize, the way we maybe look at beauty, the ways that we are dealing with gender, that we had some sort of choice at, and then we can kind of maybe let that go when Venus meets the south node, and I think it's like a few months time. So we'll talk about that later. This is going to be in the 10th mansion. Lunar mansion Al-Jaba, aka the brow, has the nature of Mars and Jupiter. So I think that there's a lot of energy at play here. Mars and Jupiter being like probably the most energetic of planets, vigorous, expansive. Keywords for this particular place that the sun and the moon are: power, success, aid, healing, recovery, improvement, help, and increasing of strength. And we have this new seed that we are planting here that I think we'll get some sort of awareness of when we look forward into February 1st of 2026. So do your rituals and then kind of see how that plays out over the next few months, working towards your goals. Friday, July 25th is Venus's day. Venus is still in Gemini, but is now separating from the square with Mars. And so hopefully any sort of like the stress and pressure around relationships and communication can maybe let off the gas a little bit. Fingers crossed. Amazing. Not a lot of aspects today. We do have Mars in Virgo is going to quintile Jupiter in Cancer. This is at 4:08 a.m. And so I think that this is, you know, a really lovely kind of in the background working aspect around like being able to feel like you can get the things done that you need to get done. Especially around like home and like the types of work you do on a day-to-day level, maybe in your home kind of thing. I like that aspect that we just kind of wake up and we're like, okay, we're just gonna get to work. 7:57 a.m. we are gonna have the moon in Leo conjunct retrograde Mercury. This is gonna be at 13 degrees, 23 minutes. And I think that there's something about like telling the story or a communication needing to be noticed for what you think, what you say. There is an energy here around not just communication, but drama as well. Kind of a little bit of a high drama moment. The moon is still not quite free of being under the beams of the sun once we get to like noon Pacific Standard Time. So like we're still not seeing like the fruition of things, right? We're not seeing the light in the sky. There's still maybe a little bit of feeling like we are, we want to be noticed, we need to be noticed, we need to be recognized. And we're maybe not quite getting that, but there's also just this ability to communicate in passionate, creative ways. Whenever I think of the Leo archetype, I always think about creativity because it's not just art, right? It's also children, it's sex, it's writing your grand play, it's being a character. Leo is the sign of the actor, right? Being on that main stage. So I think that there is some energy here around needing to be noticed, needing to be recognized, with moon being about our needs and instinct. This could be speaking out as well, right? And maybe reinvigorating some sort of old idea and repurposing it in a new way. In the afternoon, we do have the moon is going to sesqui square retrograde Saturn and Neptune. The sesqui square is going to potentially cause a sense of like friction, deep kind of excruciating anxiety, maybe feeling a little bit beat down, and a little bit of maybe like rejection. Yeah. So I think that maybe taking a little bit of caution in that earlier days aspect around measuring twice and cutting once, especially around the ways that we communicate our needs to other people so that we don't feel rejected later on in the day. Saturday, July 26th is Saturn's day. Saturn is retrograde. He is fallen in Aries. He's feeling maybe a little bit disrespected and like, you know, the power that he is wielding is slowly being stripped away. And I say that because of that very close proximity and almost conjunction to Neptune, the planet of dissolving. Now, in particular, this day, I mean, there's a fair amount of fire in the sky early on, right? We have the sun, Mercury, and the moon, Saturn, and Neptune, and Chiron, all in fire signs. So maybe it's that we wake up feeling, you know, a bit passionate, a bit like fired up to get the things done that we need to get into the day. We do have a lovely aspect. This is at 4:01 a.m. We have the moon in Leo, sextile Venus in Gemini. This is going to be at 24 degrees. So you have any planets at 24 degrees, you know, this sextile, this opportunity, this communication, this kind of play or generosity is going to be like flirting with you. And in fact, I do think that this combination of Moon and Leo sextile Venus in Gemini is incredibly playful. It's social. And so hopefully we wake up with some, in general, pretty good energy, even though the nights or the afternoons aspects before were a little bit cranky, if only for a couple of hours. 9:53 a.m. we are going to get that retrograde Mercury in Leo, quintile Uranus and Gemini, and I think this is like being revisited with an old idea and going, oh yeah, that idea, right? This is like being able to think in different ways, to maybe be able to revisit past ideas in new, innovative ways. I love when Mercury and Uranus are talking to each other in good aspect, because it really brings like fresh, innovative, liberating thoughts and ideas and new ways of thinking and looking and communicating. So I personally think that's pretty cute. Now at 1:55 p.m. the moon is going to enter Virgo, and so we are going to get a vibe shift. One of the stories that I was told by one of my astrology teachers and mentors was like, you know, as you go around the zodiac, the sign that comes after is the sign that's kind of like either cleaning up or improving upon what the sign previous to it did, right? And so Virgo is the sign of like atonement, of service, of purity, of analysis, can be of crisis. And so when it comes after Leo, which can be so very dramatic and at times can be very inflated and just takes up all of the room, right? Because it is the sun. Virgo comes in and is like, okay, we've gone too far. We need to like clean that up. We need to like, sure, we can have some of that, but maybe not all of that. Moon in Virgo now is critical, and also critical of itself, right? Maybe it went a little bit too overboard emotionally, and now it feels like it needs to pay atonement or has to sacrifice something in order to make amends for the ways that it is maybe gone a little bit too far. The moon in Virgo also needs to get some work done, needs to clean up, needs to, you know, categorize things in order to like find perfection, with the reminder that perfection does not exist. Don't tell that to a Virgo, because they can see it. Is it happening? No, I'm a Virgo rising, so I'm always trying to find a better way. It's about systems, it's about thinking. A moon in Virgo can exhibit a fair amount of anxiety. This is the sign of the tummy ache, right? The gut feeling. So 3:19 p.m. we get the moon square Uranus, sudden emotional breakthrough or ideas coming through, some sort of shock, some sort of jump start, a lightning bolt that comes through in an emotional way, suddenly having to change one's habits, that sort of thing. There's a suddenness that pushes us forward, the square. It makes us do something. Yeah. So then we get the moon is going to quincunx retrograde Saturn and Neptune. Moon in Virgo is already a moon that is pretty keen to deal with habits and health and anxiety and overanalyzing one's emotions before they're prone to maybe let them out. This is kind of a yin sign. It's more receptive. I think there's a bit of like churning one's feelings. And with those quincunxes of Saturn and Neptune, I think that there is an anxiety around feeling some sense of disillusionment or loss, or even maybe some grief with Neptune being in there, sadness. And also maybe some anger with those planets being in Aries. The interesting thing about Virgo and Aries is that they have an antisha, so they have some sort of thing about them that works together. And I think it is the needing to do something, to react, to get something done in different ways. Certainly, like Aries just does it, and Virgo has analyzed the thing and then but still needs to do that work. But the quincunxes are sudden adjustments, right? And so it perhaps that there is some sort of limit that is reached, and the moon, we need to make some sort of adjustment, especially when it comes to like maybe the structures or dreams that we're trying to create. And then at 6:36, we get a quincunx to retrograde Pluto, and also just the evening is a little sus, a little anxious, a little churny, a little psychologically like we're grappling with something. We have to change, we have to adjust, we have to make some sort of shift, and it just doesn't feel quite great. So hang on to that. Try to hang on to that lovely energy in the morning to kind of get through. And then just know that as the afternoon comes in and sets in, and we're very aware of all of the work that we have to get done, that we try not to let the anxiety ghost chase us down and render us paralyzed with the ability to move forward. Use that kind of maybe anxious energy that is kind of around you to just kind of, okay, I'm just going to analyze and categorize the things that are actually prudent for me to get done. And then I'm just going to check my way off the list. I can do only one thing at a time. I need to relinquish some sort of sense of like ultimate control, that I can do everything all at once, which, you know, a Virgo would love to do. So use that little background of anxiety to push you into taking some sort of actual action, but don't believe the hype and the spin that's going on in the mind. Sunday, July 27th is the Sun's Day, and the sun is the final dispositor in the sky today. All of the planets, as they go through their lords, end up with the sun, which has to do with ultimate creativity, generosity, shining, right? Leading with an open heart. There's such a generosity around being open-hearted with so many Leos that have well integrated their energy, where just being in the presence of a like balanced and integrated Leo can just ultimately feel like a warm, energetic hug. It's like they point their solar light at you and you feel warm and invited and cared for. Now, there aren't a lot of aspects today. We do have some cute quintiles and biquintiles from the moon to Venus and Pluto. I think there's a generosity, a pleasantness, a ability to make beautiful or to communicate in ways to share your sense of, value, and a depth, an emotional depth here that also is here, like to be able to get to the bottom of the matter. And I think because we had all of those quincunxes earlier in yesterday, right? It's almost as if you got to the bottom of the matter. You went through the anxiety and now you're here and you're able to kind of like push through and do something about it. 9:56 a.m. we have the moon sextile Jupiter in Cancer. Now the sextile is, a generosity, it's an ability. Hopefully it will help the moon to feel a little bit in ease. It could potentially make a moon in Virgo want to do more, right? I think this is a great aspect to clean your house, to make soup, or it's cold outside here, but to make food for your family, to engage in, cutting your hair and doing your wellness spa rituals and health routines and things like that, personally. So I would say kind of make it into a spa morning would be great. We get some sesame squares from the moon to Pluto and Chiron. So this really starts around 10:40 a.m. and goes through to about 1 p.m. This is, I think this is feeling very, very sensitive and anxious and really unsettled. So when the moon does get amplified or touched by Jupiter earlier, I think that there's still a little bit of cautious to not overdo it. And that's why I think that there should be something about like rest and wellness and health instead. We are going to get a biquintile from Venus to Pluto. And I think this has to do with ideas and being social and how we like move forward in society. Gemini and Aquarius really do enjoy each other as signs. They are social, one's more about ideas, and Aquarius and Gemini. And Aquarius is about like kind of the big picture that like allows everybody to feel fully seen and heard and kind of honored. There's a equalness. It's like all people being the same, and to Gemini, it's like all ideas are the same. So there's kind of a nice flowing energy here, which I do not hate at all. And then at 10:40 p.m. we do get a sesqui square from the moon to Pluto. I think this is really trying to get into the bottom of the matter. This can feel, again, very, very anxious when we get the sesqui squares. One of the ways that it was explained to me is that it has kind of like investigative, churning, scorpionic kind of energy to it. And it really is about almost like you want to get to the bottom of something so you can like remove it, right? You can like get it out, you can exercise it from you. But it's almost like this friction of hitting your head against a wall because you can't quite get it done. So that aspect isn't the best. I do think that the afternoon is certainly more cranky than that early morning. So if you spend the day trying to rest and heal and to take good care of yourself, I think that that's probably the best way to utilize the energy of the day. Monday, July 28th is the moon's day. The moon is the planetary day. And we have the moon still in Virgo, though later on in the day, in the evening actually, it's going to enter Libra. So a couple of things. I think that the morning feels better than the evening. I think the morning gives us some good time to be intuitive and able to engage in like generous behaviors, kind of some feel good aspects, some ability to work on our own healing should we want to, maybe to even talk about the things that we essentially need to do in order to facilitate our healing. Now, we are going to get the moon conjunct Mars in Virgo. This is a great working aspect. It can also feel a bit spicy, a bit critical, right? Like, could, want to say something that is a little bit biting or a little bit undercutting, I would say, or to feel bad about yourself. Let's not, okay? Let's just not do that. But it kind of impassions or like kind of fires up, that Martian word, fires up that moon to like go and do something about it. So I say try to use it for working energy instead of criticalness. Be of service. In the evening or late afternoon, we get some vibe shifts here. Around 3:50 p.m., the moon is going to dive into the south node. The south node has to do with the past, it has to do with releasing. And so there could be something here around this journey that the moon in Virgo has been on, you know, being asked to like make some sort of emotional adjustments, to, you know, kind of work on this thing, to maybe do some health practices, that sort of thing. And then as it dives into the south node, it's kind of like I can release something, this old pattern, this old habit, this old way of maybe talking to myself or being critical here. This can go away. Now the south node meeting up with the moon meeting up with the south node can bring some issues that has to do around lunar things, which is like mothering, women certainly as well. And because Mars is still so close, and moon Mars and all of that, this could potentially wake up, the trigger being the moon, this fast planet, some of the themes that were going on with that Venus-Mars square and the South Node stuff, especially because the moon is going to come and square Venus as well. So its kind of action is it meets up with the South Node, it meets up with Mars, and then it squares Venus. And then the void, of course, begins. So I think that there's some crankiness, there's some friction, there's some stuff around relationship, there could be stuff around, you know, women or femininity at the time, some words that aren't appreciated, something that we have to let go of or we're being forced to let go of with the South Node. It doesn't look as wonderful as it could, you know, like I just think that Monday afternoon is not the best that we could be. Perhaps. And then the very last aspect of the day, or the last thing of the day that I will be talking about for this day, is at 10:43 p.m. the moon is going to enter Libra. And when it enters any of the cardinal points, it ends up on the world point. So there could be some news, like something happens earlier, and then now there's something that we are all aware of because it's on the world point, meaning we're all here. The world is made aware of perhaps these lunar functions, and maybe about like relationships. Maybe it's how women, you know, the stereotypical kind of idea of women or femininity operates in relationships. Could be. It just had to let go of something, and now it's in the sign. The moon in Libra is a social sign. Now we need to relate to one another. We need to socialize. We need to have conversation and communicate. We're trying to find harmony and balance, that sort of thing. Hi, do you want to come up here? Okay, fine. But when the moon enters Libra, we do have that void of course ending. There is that short void of course that is going to be happening between 6 p.m. and when the moon enters Libra at 10:43 p.m. So maybe take that time, especially, and also we might just be feeling kind of sleepy or not vital or just not emotionally in the best place because of that moon south node situation. Whenever a planet comes and hangs out with a node, right, it can be a bit destabilizing. And the south node has, or is said to have, the nature of Mars and Saturn. And the north node more like Jupiter, the benefics, the good planets, Venus and Jupiter. So, you know, there is something that can be suddenly cut off from, suddenly let go of, having to stop something dies here, that endings around lunar functions happen early on in the day, and then we need to connect. So hang on, hang in there. The world is doing what it does, right? and hopefully we can just survive the vibe check for better days. Tuesday, July 29th is Mars's day. And Mars is now slowly creeping away from the south node that has been kind of destabilizing it, probably creating some, anger and frustration that people are expressing. Yeah, so hooray for that. Now, today we do have, in some ways I feel like it's good news, bad news bears, right? I think that this is, for the most part, kind of a rock and rollin' day. With kind of a lot of twists and turns, with maybe an overdoing it in the evening. New ideas and ways of being can flow in the middle of the night with the dreams. Moon in Libra trine Uranus and Gemini, very social, enlivened. Middle of the night though, so you're probably asleep. It is an exciting time to be communicating with spirits in the dream world, certainly. 203 and 239, we have the moon opposing that retrograde Saturn and Neptune. This can, moon opposite Neptune can feel like overwhelm. And then the moon opposite Saturn can feel like restricted or blocked or limited, a reality check that causes oh, I can't go there. Literally there's a boundary, a border, something is set up here and met with a wall of water that just kind of comes crashing down on you. I think it feels a bit like being emotionally destabilized and uncertain and a little bit lost even. Then we have the moon trine Pluto. I think from those emotions that we might be experiencing, depending on where you are in the world, we have the ability to kind of go a little bit deeper, to feel a little bit deeper, to think a little bit deeper in order for us to get rid of something, right? Moon Pluto's asking the moon to get rid of something because the Pluto is the bigger, slower planet. And so with the moon in Libra, I think one of its negative qualities that it could have could be around, being codependent, too agreeable, that sort of thing. And so now it can kind of get into the bottom of the matter and go okay, I can release this. I think it can be, and I think the trines to Pluto can be an emotionally healing time if we're willing to go deeply into the work. Midday, 12:16 p.m., moon sextile, sun in Leo. What was that idea that you had when you set your intentions for the new moon? Perhaps it's time to kind of speak about them. And I don't necessarily mean to other people. I just mean maybe speak the words out loud. I think that this is a lovely working aspect to make sure that you planted the proper seeds. It is a playful energy. I do like that energy. Something's emerging here. And in general, I think emotionally, spiritually, we're feeling more or less in alignment with ourselves. Then we get a sextile to retrograde Mercury in Leo. Again, this is, chatty, conversational, maybe revisiting some old conversations that you have had with other people that needs to be addressed again. It's the ability to communicate, how you're feeling and where you're at and what you're doing. But at 8:58 p.m., it's this is the aspect of good news, bad news bears, right? We get the moon square Jupiter in Cancer. I think that there could be an emotional overdoing, right? There could be an expression that is a little bit too much. This is potentially doing too much to self-soothe or to find ourselves more comfortable. I think this could be maybe over-explaining ourselves in some sort of way. Yeah, there's a caution to not overindulge. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, right? And it's we don't hate it for that. But I think that there could also be, wanting to maybe overcommit in some sort of way, or overdue in some sort of way, or just our expression is a little bit out of whack and it needs to kind of be checked in here. So just be cautious of that, and to use that energy wisely, to maybe use it more in like creative, beautifying ways instead of ways that could potentially be a bit, I don't know, manipulative to others in order to get the attention that you want.
Hey, thank you for listening to today's Astro Weather with me. I'm Sydney. As a reminder, I'm always open to seeing both new and my beloved returning clients. My website is ddastrology.com, that is D as in dog, D as in dog, astrology.com, to check me out and just click the email buttons in order to schedule with me. If you're into a more conversational feel with your podcast and content, I have a podcast called BS Astrology with my fellow Mercurial Mommy Bender, and we put out episodes every Sunday for the week. Just search BS Astrology on YouTube or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcast, including Spotify, Audible, and more. Have a good day.